Kathy Griffith,
Here.
Jason Blair,
Here.
Melissa Hunt,
Here.
Louis Williams,
Here.
Adam Webb, Mark Ham,
Here.
Glenn Lewis.
Would you stand for our Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will bring us to item 2, which is our consent docket. A is approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held August 21st, 2023. Receive the minutes of the regular planning commission meeting held August 11th, 2023. Accept the Moore Urban Renewal Authority annual report with fiscal or financial statement. Item D, approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2022-23 in the amount of $223,353.82, and approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2023-2024 in the amount of $4,598,023.17.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have had a motion and a second. Will you call the vote?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item 3 is consider the final plat of Silverleaf Courts located northwest quarter of Section 13, Township 10 North, Rural 3 West, being south of Northeast 12th Street and east of Eastern Avenue. Application is by Noble REH, LLC, Jake Schofer. Planning Commission recommended approval, 7-0, and this is in Ward 1.
Vice Mayor and Council, this site is located south of Northeast 12th Street and west of Silverleaf Drive. The property is currently zoned R1 as a planned unit development, and the applicant is proposing to develop a single-family residential development approximately 0.77 acres in size with 5 dwelling units. This results in an overall density of 6.5 dwelling units per acre. Public water and sewer are available to serve this site. Because the site is under 1 acre in size, stormwater detention is not required. There is no identified FEMA floodplain. However, there is some off-site drainage that comes from the Silverleaf Shopping Center to the west. Drainage plans have been submitted and approved that take that water into, dividing it into 2 flumes with an outlet to North Silverleaf Drive. Access for the property is provided by North Silverleaf Drive. The site was rezoned to R1 as a planned unit development on August the 2nd, 2021. The PUD included the following amenities: 70% masonry on the exterior facade, 2-car garages required for each house, and a personalized landscaping plan for each lot that would include 1 to 2 trees per lot and 4 to 7 shrubs per lot. The Envision More 2040 plan calls for this location to be community commercial, and land uses allowed in this designation include a mix of commercial and residential uses. The application was reviewed as to its conformance with the intent of the plan, and staff believes that there is no amendment to the land use plan that is necessary. The final plat is in general conformance with the preliminary plat and the approved PUD. Staff recommends approval of this final plat. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So the driveway's front on Silverleaf?
Yes, the driveways will front on Silverleaf Drive.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. No other discussion. Would you call the vote?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item passes. Item 4 is consider approval of the 2023 City of Moore standards and specifications to be used for infrastructure development within the city.
David, if you could please, thank you. This project started in 2020. It's been a long time coming. The city contracted with ADG, and we've had subsequent contracts with some other engineering firms and technical folks to assist us in developing these standards and specifications. The city currently does not have any specifications for public improvements. This does cause some problems because the developers who develop within Moore are required to submit specifications to DEQ for approval. So that means they have to develop specifications every time they submit something instead of just having city specifications on file. It also generates issues with contractors needing to know exactly how the city expects the improvements to be installed and what the inspection points are. And we do have current city standards, but they date back to 2008, so they are in need of a update and a refresh. The specifications goal was to put in writing what we actually practice. So you probably saw the 500-plus page document on the server. That's what it is. We modeled it after the City of Oklahoma City's, but we did go through every single page with the appropriate departments, whether that was utilities or public works. Jerry and myself spent a lot of time going over every page, every paragraph to make sure that it stated what we actually do in practice. So really, there's nothing new about it. It's just putting down in writing what we do. There are a couple of items that are newer additions to our practice that we have started in the last few years. So we did include those items. There's no real impact on developers, and we haven't had any complaints to date. I believe that you might have a memo from me that kind of goes over all of the different changes that we've done. These include making sure that tracer wires are placed on water lines so we can locate the water lines more effectively, using mega lugs at all fittings for water connections. That makes sure that they stay together better than what has been traditionally used. The memo that was sent out goes through all of them. I'm happy to go through all of them if you like. But the more substantial changes are proposed with the streets, and this may cause some developer concern. And I'm just going to go over those briefly with you now. We're proposing that geotechnical reports would be required on all paving projects. This would include an investment of several $1,000s, where a geotechnical engineer would go out, take sampling of the soil conditions, and they would design a roadway section specifically for the soil conditions that they find. This becomes important whenever the soil conditions are something that we don't normally see, and a great example of that is going to be Timber Creek Estates. That's the development that is just east of Sooner Road, and it's a brand new development, and the roads began failing literally from day one. The city has since spent a lot of money to go out and replace those streets. The reason of the failure was because the soil conditions in that location were very sandy, and they describe it as gumbo. So you have to have a different type of street section to make sure that your street stays together. Otherwise, it just completely falls apart, which is exactly what it did. So our proposal to eliminate that possibility from happening in the future is to go ahead and require this geotechnical report on every phase of a subdivision, and then we'd also require it on our own roadway projects ourselves. The second item that might cause some developer concern would be that the recycled asphalt should not be allowed for asphalt paving. Recycled asphalt was something that came into vogue around 2000, 2005. ODOT does allow it, or did allow it, up to 25% recycled asphalt of your asphalt mixture. When that started happening, all the cities adopted the same standard. In looking at the transverse cracking that we see around town, our geotechnical engineer has stated that the recycled asphalt plays a large part in that. It just doesn't bind together well enough. So he is recommending that we go to no recycled asphalt allowed in driving surfaces for asphalt paving. Recycled asphalt would be allowed as a base material under concrete streets. So there still is a role for recycled asphalt, just not on asphalt streets. Now, just to let you know, we would be the only city that I know of in the metro who would not allow recycled asphalt if this is passed. So today, ODOT and Midwest City both allow 25% of the mixture to be recycled asphalt. Norman, Oklahoma City, and Edmond have reduced that to 15% because everyone is seeing the transverse cracking. So Norman, Oklahoma City, and Edmond are now reducing the amount of recycled asphalt allowed. We proposed eliminating it altogether. The third change that may generate some discussion is going to be increasing our roadway section by 2 inches, the thickness of the section by 2 inches. I provided a simplified cross-section of a roadway so you can see that the increase would be at the stabilized base. Instead of the 6 inches that we currently require, we would be requiring 8 inches. That's also known as the subgrade. We do have a lot of nomenclature crossover that gets kind of confusing, which is why I provided the exhibit for you to look at. And then the sub-base course would be a material and thickness that would vary, and that would be based on the geotechnical report. And then you would have a 4-inch lift of the base course and then a 2-inch lift of the surface course, the driving surface. The other item is to talk about the standard details. These are the ones that were adopted in 2008. We're ready for an upgrade or a redo of those. Some of the issues that we have addressed in this proposal would be to require the concrete bulb in cul-de-sacs be concrete, and that's to eliminate the pushing that we see from the trash trucks, where the asphalt is pushed into the driveway and you see some movement there. The concrete bulb would eliminate that altogether. We did include new Old Town street standards. This would include things that we are already putting into place, like the bike lanes and the on-street parking options for Old Town. And then we are bringing our standards up to date with the latest ADA handicap ramp designs. That's just more of a housekeeping measure than anything. But we have had a lot of discussion on right-of-way widths, and this is what the developers will be interested in. Our current right-of-way width is 100 feet, and we are proposing to increase that to 120 to 130. The reason is that there is 100 feet just gives you that limited room, and in the past 5 to 10 years, there's been additional utilities that have been allowed to locate within the right-of-way, and that number keeps growing. So right now, there's about 10 separate utilities that are allowed by the Corporation Commission to just go in the right-of-way. We have to let them in. And that number will grow as technology changes and everything else. Additionally, we would need additional driving lanes and turn lanes to accommodate the increased traffic that we're seeing. And we have a desire for more street amenities at the council level, like the 10-foot multi-use trail, trees, maybe even benches, and we could even possibly one day in the future have a public art program that would locate in the right-of-way. So a 100-foot right-of-way allows for a road, trail, and sidewalk that equal 85 feet wide. That leaves 15 feet for utilities and street amenities. So you can see how it gets very congested very quickly. Other considerations are that trees need to be at the mature level, at least 15 feet away from the utility lines, or they get what I call hacked, which we just saw. And we're also limited on the type of trees that we can plant because they do need to be under a certain height. The 10-foot multi-use trail with a 100-foot right-of-way is usually placed very close to the edge of the roadway, which is, for a lot of people, just creates an unsavory walking path because you're so close to the traffic going that fast. And you can see that here at this location. This is the conceptual plans we have for 19th and Santa Fe. And you can see that both the sidewalks and the multi-use trail are located right against the curb. So for a 100-foot right-of-way, of course, we're very limited for street amenities. I would note that grant funding, such as ACOG funding, usually requires you to have, in order to score high enough to be funded, a sidewalk, a trail, and streetscape amenities. So we're very limited whenever you get to a 100-foot right-of-way. 120-foot right-of-way does allow for more room. You can have larger trees, maybe landscape medians, just more of the amenities. 130-foot right-of-way is going to obviously give you just more room to do different things. You would be able to have increased amenities, larger trees, maybe decorative lighting, public art. It would even provide areas for some stormwater quality techniques to clean the stormwater before it goes down the drain. So that is just a very high-level overview. I understand that you received a lot of information and not really expecting you to go through it page by page. And this is a very large project with important issues that'll affect development, from here on within the city. So I'm not really expecting a vote on it tonight unless you guys the council has decided that that's what they want to do. But we are happy to meet with you individually, myself and Jerry, to review all of these items and talk to you about your specific concerns when it comes to some of these items that the developers would be concerned about. We're also happy to bring this item back to a future meeting where we can discuss it in an open format such as this. Whatever your pleasure is, we're happy to do that.
When you say 120 to 130 right away, what determines in a development whether it's 120 or 130? Are you still trying to decide what it's going to be?
Well, the reasoning for 120 to 130 is that 130 would be our ideal,
Okay.
but the council can decide any width between 100 and 130.
Okay.
I mean,
Now,
anything is going to
Okay.
be better than we have today.
These would be major thoroughfares.
That's correct. These would be arterial roadways.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Now, some cities do have an arterial roadway plan where they designate certain roadways to be certain right-of-way widths. That is helpful from the development community because it gives you a certainty in knowing what the city's going to request. As it is now, we may get a development review and we may not know the right-of-way that we would want to request, until they're already down to the preliminary platting stage, which is kind of late in the game, although it's not too late.
Well, and most of our arterial roadways are already fixed.
They
And
are,
it's
yes, that is
really
correct.
difficult to get any more space to add a turn lane and some of those kinds of
Yes.
things. So this would apply more to the areas where we have that opportunity, so.
Right.
Yes.
New developments.
And I would just add, I appreciate the forward thinking on this. Our city
Yeah.
just continues to grow, and there's going to be more people. So if we can get ahead of it a little bit, and this could help with additional turn lanes and more a walkable and city, then I think it's a very good thing. So I look forward to meeting with you and Jerry.
All right. Thank you very much.
So do we want a motion of any kind?
Table.
I'll make a motion that we table to a future meeting.
Second.
Okay, so did you got it? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the vote, please?
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes.
And I'd like to say thanks, Elizabeth,
Yeah, and Jerry.
and all the people that participated in it, and Jerry. Just, that's a lot of time. a lot of effort, so.
Okay, item 5 is consider authorizing the budgeted purchase of a 2024 Ford F-550 Crew Cab four-wheel drive for the fire department from Bill Knight Ford in the amount of $72,771 using state contract number SW035.
Yes, Vice Mayor and Council, this F-550 chassis is for the squad that'll go in service at Station 2. Once we have this on order, then we'll go out to bid to construct the back end, the box of the truck. Happy to answer any questions.
What kind
you
of
have.
truck, what will it be used, what's its primary purpose?
Respond on calls. This will be cross-staffed with a ladder truck, so if it's anything other than a fire call, they'll use this F-550. If it's a fire call, they'll switch their gear over and,
So
Use a
not
ladder.
a brush pumper or anything like that?
no, sir,
It's-
it'll
Okay,
just be a rescue squad. It'll be outfitted with all the equipment like the ladder truck is now.
okay,
So they'll have everything on it except for hose, water, and ladders.
okay.
To help take a lot of wear and tear off of the fire apparatus.
Make a motion to approve.
Second,
All right, I had a motion and a second. Would you call the vote?
Louis Williams.
yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item carries. Item 6 is consider approval of a preliminary design report for the Phillips 66 Park to be located at Southeast 12th and Whispering Oaks Road. Parks and Recreation.
Vice Mayor and Council, this is the park that is basically going to be a natural resources park. Due to the restrictions that we have to that location, we'll be using many types of grasses, trees, and flowers within that design. We'll also have sidewalks for a walking trail, lighting, and a relatively small parking area. So that's basically all we can do to that location.
Will the sidewalks be concrete?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have had a motion and a second. Would you call the vote?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item carries. Item 7 is consider authorizing the budgeted purchase of a tracked 60-inch remote-operated rotary mower from Kinlock Equipment and Supply in the amount of $64,550 using state contract number SW0500.
Vice Mayor and Council, in the last 2 years, we've rode actually 4 slope mowers. One crew member almost drowned just because the slopes were very steep. So this will help us to be able to mow all the steep slope up to about 50 degrees without putting anybody in harm's way.
Up to about how many degrees?
Excuse me, sir.
Up to how many degrees?
50.
50, okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you said 15 or 50.
50.
Thank you.
Is that like on the I-35, or is that the state? Do they mow that?
Yeah, the state does that. We have like Janeway Ditch, Bronze Meadow, Queensbury. All
So
those
some
are
of our
very
drainage
steep.
ditches
Yeah,
and stuff, we'll
most
be
of
able
it,
to
yeah.
get in there? That's great.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So is that device set up where you can load heavy on one side, or is it just low enough to the ground it
It's-
typically won't?
It has a
tip over?
wider base. It's on tracks,
Yeah,
so
Okay.
not tires. So
all right,
it's got the stability to be able to maneuver, and then on steep slopes. So.
okay.
And it's remote controlled, so we don't have
Somebody's
Oh,
physically
somebody
running it.
standing on the side and
great.
control.
Okay. Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
We have had a motion and a second. Would you call a vote?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item carries. Item 8, consider authorizing the budgeted purchase of a brine production system with apparent installation kits, control panel, and accessories from Doltmeyer Cells in the amount of $81,450 using state contract number SW0455.
Vice Mayor and Council, items 8 and 9 are companion items. During snow and ice control or events, we do not have a better way to pre-treat the streets before the storms hit. So this will enable us to pre-treat the streets. I'm sure you've seen when you drive on I-35 and in other cities, you see a streaks of lines. And that is what the brine does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's used to pre-treat so that the ice won't stick to the streets, and then for better and efficient removal of the snow and ice after the storm.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have had a motion and a second. Would you call the vote?
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item carries. Item 9 is consider authorizing a budgeted purchase of an 1,800-gallon brine application system sprayer and a 2-in pump kit for a DICE or a de-ice, I'm not sure, trunk with Ecuador from Daltmeyer Sales in the amount of $24,100 using state contract number SW455.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Would you call the vote?
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item carries. Item 10 is approve the purchase of one True Narc portable drug scanning system and related accessories from Thermo Scientific Portable Analytic Instruments, Inc. in the amount of $29,751.86 using GSA contract number GF-07F-6099R.
Vice Mayor and Council, this is a safety item for officers in identifying narcotics, and what this device allows us to do is not have to actually touch any of the drugs. And so currently, when you're trying to identify fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, you're having to take an actual little bit portion of that, put it into a testing kit, so there's always contamination issues or absorption issues. This device is new technology, and it allows us to analyze the substance, get a presumptive, and not have to touch it. We can do it right in the package. What it also does is currently there is no test kit for fentanyl as far as a presumptive test, and so we could arrest somebody for fentanyl and not be able to charge until we have data back from the lab. But with this device, the district attorney's office will take a presumptive identification with this device. So it will increase efficiency in our process and provide safety to officers in touching and handling narcotics. We'd recommend approval.
Will this be one device that stays in the station?
Yes, sir.
But we'll still have to send it to OSBI or whatever lab we use for testing for court.
Correct, but to file the initial charge, so if we make an arrest that evening, to file the initial charge, we must have a presumptive
Okay.
before we'll be able to file a charge. In any case, we have to get verified through a lab.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. Would you call the vote, please?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item carries. Item 11 is consider authorizing the budgeted purchase of 3 Mavic 3 thermal drones and 2 Matrix 30T drones with live stream and flight tracker software from General Pacific, Inc., doing business as Genpack Drones in the amount of $65,798 as the lowest and most responsive quote.
Vice Mayor and Council, as you might or might not be aware, drones are really revolutionizing law enforcement and how we're able to respond and provide service, not only finding individuals that are wanted for criminal violations, but also finding children, missing persons, and a whole host of variety of things. What this does, what this purchase would do for us is enhance our drone capabilities and allow us longer flight time and flight time in inclement weather that we can't fly into now. Just for example, just even tonight, we used a drone on patrol to find a runaway juvenile. It was very effective. It also allows us to have air support during critical incidents or tactical operations that we know that we previously would not have had unless we called Oklahoma City's helicopter out or anything like that. So it's a real game changer in law enforcement, but the technology is advancing extremely quickly. This would put us on par with most of the forward-thinking agencies in the metro. We'd recommend.
Do any of these have nighttime capability?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
Where, they'll just be in supervisors' vehicles, or will they be at the station and y'all will get them if you need them, or?
So we have drone operators identified that are FAA certified 107 operators, and so they have to go through a pretty in-depth class of training through FAA. and then they have to take a test. It's a pretty tough test. And so the only people operating these drones are 107 operators. And we also have a COA. I could get into a lot of different things, but
Yeah.
just to let you know, we also have a COA for our city, which allows us to fly for law enforcement purposes only. And also, there are specific areas that are restricted because of Max Westheimer and Tinker on our north side that we're not able to fly. But generally speaking, we have authorization and certification to fly drones for law enforcement purposes throughout our whole city right now.
Okay. And then just my last question, they're thermal, so they have night vision?
They have heat seeking, so.
So if somebody were hiding in a neighborhood that may have been breaking into cars, we could deploy that and hopefully.
Absolutely, Vice Mayor. It's a game changer, especially at night. And we currently now, we might get a call of a auto burglar in a neighborhood or a group of auto burglars in a neighborhood. Officers would respond, and what they can see with their eye at 2 o'clock in the morning is what they can see with their eye. With this, we're able to see a whole lot more and pinpoint where they are and send the resources in there to stop it.
Could these also be used like for a high-speed I mean, I know it wouldn't at that point, but instead of having officers chase someone, use these instead to follow?
In theory, it could for a short, high-speed chase, but it would not be super effective long-term. We have some circumstances already in the metro where agencies have drones that have been engaged in assisting in pursuits, but because of the limited flight time, even with these newer drones, the best drone that we're purchasing, I think, has about a 45-minute flight time, and that's in ideal situation.
Perfect, thank you.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Would you call the vote, please?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item passes. Thank you, Chief. Okay. Yep, and then we have the addendum item 11.1. Consider an appeal of an administrative order condemning property located at 2873 Woodlawn Drive. Application by Robert Gershon, Jr., attorney for homeowners, Ollie and Dilwyn Dupree.
Thank you. David, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the PowerPoint. I just have a couple of pictures. This item comes to you after several months of the city staff and the homeowner and their representatives going back and forth over the condition of 2873 Woodlawn. This all started May the 10th. We did receive a complaint that initiated an investigation on the property. Our inspectors came back with some real concerns, which is when the building official and the lead building inspector, Mark Earls, who was here, got involved. We scheduled the first administrative hearing was on May 30th, 2023. At that meeting, we did order a structural engineer report to be completed to determine the extent of damages. On June 15th, we had a second administrative hearing. This is the first structural engineer's report was presented. It was found to be insufficient. At that time, the city stated that we would hire a third-party structural engineer to go out and take a look at the property and determine the extent of the damage. On August the 4th, we were able to finally secure a structural engineer who does work around Moore and the Oklahoma City Metro all the time with structural engineer requests. The structural engineer did visit the site 7th and 8th and August 7th, 8th, and the 14th. He did perform inspections going around the property underneath to look at some of the structural members in the crawl space and also some limited interior inspections. That structural engineer report you do have a copy of, and it did find significant structural damages with the property. This report was emailed to the property owner's attorney on August 23rd. On August 29th, we had our last administrative hearing. At that administrative hearing, based on the extent of the damages that was found in the structural engineer's report, The city staff had really no recourse but to tell them that the property was condemned, and actually it is uninhabitable. They are living in it, and we cannot say that it is safe for human occupancy. So we advise them to move out. So I can just give you a little bit of background. Over 20 years of doing this, this is probably the most concerning house that I've seen where people are actually living in it, that was not involved in a tornado. A lot of damage to the property that's just been happening over time. And the city staff does have a duty to help ensure safe buildings, and that the people who are in those buildings are relatively safe from imminent failure of those buildings. We don't want anyone to be crushed by falling timbers or pieces of a house. Sometimes that has us make really tough decisions, and this was one of those, for sure. But I'm just going to highlight some of the structural deficiencies. These are not cosmetic. A lot of people seem to think that condemnations is based solely on how the property looks. That's not the case. It's based on damages to the structure itself. In these pictures, you're going to see the front porch. You can see that the roof has been deteriorated. The support beams, or the beams that are connected between the roof and the concrete, are loose. You can actually touch them and they move back and forth. I don't believe that these are support beams for the roof entirely, but the roof structure is in such a deteriorated state that there's probably some weight being supported by these beams, and if someone were to get on the porch and lose their balance, fall, reach out for some stability, it's very possible that that beam could come loose and possibly fall on them. Again, this is in that same area. We have a missing stem wall. A stem wall is what the framing of the wall actually sits on. Without a stem wall, you really don't have a lot of support. So you can see here that it is fully missing in some places. And there is substantial termite damage, and this was found all over the house that we could see. This particular one is on the sill plate, which is important because the sill plate is attached to both the wall structure itself and then also the stem wall. And so without an anchoring, the house is really just sitting there. It's vulnerable to updraft winds to actually pick up and move the house. So that is a pretty serious item there. This is also concerning. This is what made us so concerned in the first place, frankly, to require the structural engineer's report. We have a south wall. It is bowing out quite significantly. There is more termite damage that has been seen here. Our structural engineer, or the third-party structural engineer, stated that he believes that the termite damage might be contributing or part of the problem for this wall bowing out. We don't know that to be certain, but it is of concern. And then here you can see that there is a part of the house that has a vertical crack where the house is separating. We don't really know exactly why this is separating, whether it's just a foundation issue or if the structural members are failing to where the house is actually being pulled apart. And then some more damage on the back patio structure and loose columns there. It's also not shown in these pictures, but shown in the report that you have. There are foundation and piers that are missing or unlevel and in danger of toppling over. That's what actually supports the floor joists. And so, as you can see, there's a lot that really concern us about this property. After the city declared this uninhabitable and condemned, the property owner did exercise their right in city code to appeal to the council, which is why we're hearing it tonight. Just as an update that's happened between the time we had our administrative hearing and today, There was a news story that ran on Channel 4 that's generated a lot of interest in this issue and helping the property owners. There is a potential for at least one contractor, possibly more, willing to donate their time and services to assist with the repair of the home. The first step in city staff's opinion would be to complete a full assessment of the condition of the house and a detailed scope of work by a qualified contractor. Parts of the house were limited to what you could actually see because of just limitations within the interior of the house. So we believe that a qualified contractor spending some more time going through the house and meeting with the property owners, they might have to expose some more of the structural elements to get a full scope of the exact repairs that are needed. I did email the property owners' representatives, Mr. Goshen, and there is an interested contractor here with Triton Foundation Repair that I've been speaking with. We propose to meet back with city staff on September 12th at 9:30 a.m. to discuss the findings and agree on a timeline for repair. And I would say the structural repairs that are needed, and this is just based on the structural engineering report that we have, foundation and pier repairs, flooring, support joists, and stem wall and sill plate repairs with proper anchoring. A lot of rot and termite damage that needs to be replaced all throughout the wooden elements of the house. Fix any windows, openings to the outside, add any exterior vinyl or other type of siding that's approved by the city, and that would include insulation. But also any other structural repairs that might be found during the on-site assessment that the city is requesting. We believe it is important to complete these repairs by winter. Knowing our winters, we usually get a lot of straight line winds. We do have the potential to get wet snows that put stress on the house. We don't want to see the house deteriorate any more over the winter months than it already has. At some point, this house will fail, and we really don't want that to happen, sooner than later. So we would recommend that an assessment be done. We meet back with the property owner's representative and any contractors who might be interested in doing some pro bono work for us to, again, go over the scope of work and agree on a timeline. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And then also the property owner is here.
Elizabeth, I do. Help me understand, because I've had some people reach out and ask, how is it the city's responsibility to protect private citizens on their own property against their own home failing? What type of responsibility, liability, culpability? Where is that statute?
Sure. So that is one of the primary functions of city government. That's the reason why we have an inspections division and a building. We require building permits for every structure that's built, inspections to make sure it meets
Building codes.
building code, right. I mean, that's just a primary function of government. And people can say that it might be an overreach, but that's the way it's been for 100 years or plus. And we do it for the safety of the residents who may not be well-versed in construction, and they may not recognize what's unsafe.
Thank you for that. One other question. Do we know, do the homeowners have insurance? And what would their insurance company, what would their response be to the city demolishing the property? Would that insurance policy pay out?
Right. My understanding is they don't have insurance. However, that's a great question to ask the homeowner who would.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if the homeowner or the representative would like to come up and make a statement, or did you want to say anything?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
just takes me a minute to get up.
Sure.
Time.
Just getting old, just getting old. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you that in my 30 years of practicing law, I've never appeared before a city council. So please bear with me. Who I have with
Sir,
us.
just, if, could you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Robert Groshon.
Okay,
It's Groshon.
thank you.
Who I have with me today is Shane Simpson and Donna Simpson. They're with DS Restoration. They volunteered to come in and do construction work here. They have, I think, a $1 million insurance policy. They're licensed in most everything that can be done. Also, we have Skip Landry's here, who is the structural engineer that the family hired. And also have Jeff Widdig, I think I may be pronouncing his name wrong, with Triton Foundation Repair, who I think has already been talking to the city. All of these people are willing to donate time and materials to help do the maintenance on this building, replace the problems that it has. We're not talking about doing a complete remodeling that would require bringing everything up to code. We're talking about making this structure livable. And the family is living in it. They've been living in it. There's a lot of repairs that need to be made. We already have things like windows being donated. I believe that we've got doors that I believe are going to be donated. I think they're coming too. We have a pest control company that is willing to come in and do a pest control program on the place. We have a lot of people that are interested. And so we're asking, let's have some time. Let's not make some more homeless people. You know, this is a family that's got limited amount of money. They're of an advanced age, medical problems, and they have no place else to go. This is their home. They've been there, I think, for about 30 years. We want to go ahead and just repair this building, get everything taken care of. And if you need to talk to any of the foundation people, they're here to talk. If you need to talk to the construction people, they're here to talk. Skip Landis is here to talk if you need to talk to them. This house can be fixed up, and from what I've been told by the volunteers here, the house is not as bad as some of them that they've seen. They said that they can take care of this. So that's what we're asking. Let's not just go down and tear this place down and throw these people out on the street. Let's get it fixed up. And so that's the reason we're here.
Well, no, yeah, nobody wants to condemn the property and throw them on the street. It would be our desire that they could get their home back up to code and be a safe place for them to live. And it was my understanding that the city went out there because a resident, somebody called and issued a complaint, and then we went out there and discovered these issues. And then at that point, we have a responsibility to be complete and thorough with the reports, and that's what the city has done. So do you think that those people that you've spoken with and some of the others that are in here, that within 2 weeks you're going to be able to come back with a timeline of the repairs that need to be made and meet with the city, and that the city is happy with the progress that we're making? Because I think, what'd you say, the deadline was in December?
Well, the meeting's on 9/12, so I think the timeline has to be established.
I have not yet heard back from the property owner as to whether that's acceptable. But that's what we are proposing, is a meeting on September 12th at 9:30 a.m. where we would review the scope of work and the proposed timeline. Our hope is that the home could be repaired before the brunt of winter
Sure, right.
comes on.
Okay.
But-
because further deterioration is something that we don't want to see.
I know that we have the meeting set up for, and my understanding at that meeting was that this would give me the opportunity to put a team together to determine how we can take care of this. We've done that.
Right.
Well, oh, go ahead. Melissa.
Yeah, so by September 12th, you and your team could come to meet with the city and say, okay, here's the timeline. We think this can be done on this date, and this can be done by this date, and this can be done. And so maybe by December, then the home is repaired to where it needs to be.
Excuse me a second. You all agree with that? You think it needs more time?
I don't think that the 12th is an issue, but the completion plan will be a problem. December 15th?
Yep.
Just, if you want to speak, just step up to the lectern if you'd like to say something, and just state your name and your role in this, please.
Richard Landes, Skip, Landes Engineering. I'm 83 years young and still practicing for over 70 years. FHA inspector as well, and also sanitarian with health background with the health department, so I've been there as well. I disagree with several things that are going on. With the condemnation, the house is repairable. I've been in many houses over the time. The 1930s construction is not 2022. This house, the subdivision was done in 1929. Houses, part of them were still remnants of 1929. It's gone through World War I, World War II, and things do deteriorate. At the present time, we're going through several. City of Moore, we have what I call acute and chronic decay or deterioration. You all are noted for the acute, 2 different major tornadoes. I'm going through one right now in Shawnee. And I did make the report. I was a little disappointed that they could not accept over 50 years' experience. But do feel that this house can be repaired. 6 windows, 3 doors, less than $2,000. The porch, 2 bolts, and we're fixed. That will anchor it. These are things that are drummed up. Part of the things they have already started, they started prior to COVID-19. They cannot do the work themselves, unfortunately. They've tried to find help. If you tried to find help right now, it's a challenge. My eldest son is a home builder, and he puts a siding on his houses. It runs, if you contracted, between 50 and 75 cents a square foot. That's still doable. The portion of the house, it's in 3 pieces. The first piece was the original, was probably on an outhouse. No running water in the county, not prior to bringing it in city limits. The second house was probably brought in as part of the old barracks, and that portion is abutted to the other one, separate foundations, separate flooring. That has been repaired. Pictures show that Noon Lumber has gone under, and they still have additional beefing up or other support needs to be done. I'm a little portly now as with age. I don't want to crawl under myself, but the floor joists, I'm sorry, the ones I saw, and many of them, yes, they were termite damaged in certain portions. That termite damage, I'm not an expert, neither was this structural, is dead termite. Secondly, the lumber underneath is a full 2x4. A lot of difference in what we're building today, which are 1 5/8. They're not yellow pine, they're fir. So the structural portion of it that I'm reviewing is still repairable. Is it a challenge? Yes. But when you're looking at your home as your castle, that's still their castle. They've lived there for 30 years. It's still occupied. None of it is boarded up, has not been boarded up. Yes, if you do not pay attention and you allow an elm tree to get that big next to your foundation, please check your own homes. That elm tree is going to wind over the foundation. That's why we have probably 8 or 9 foundation repair people, because of that foundation and the soils of this area.
Are y'all able to meet with the city staff on September the 12th? And then the city staff will go over all of this with you and be able to,
We already have.
well, they need to meet again.
We
To come
already
up with a
have, and they
timeline.
Condemn it. These people cannot spend the money. I could have bought 6 windows, 3 doors this week. I'm sorry, walls. Part of them were very good brands.
Well,
And-
we need to meet,
and-
y'all need to meet again on September,
Mr.
So-
Lindsay wasn't at the last meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talked about.
But when you say condemn it at this portion, in accordance with,
Well, we hope we
Yeah,
can
we
get it
hope-
fixed. That's that's
I
what we
don't think
want.
they've covered the health issues of fire. I'm sorry, it's over 50 feet from one dwelling to the other. With our new standards, we can have 5 or 10 feet.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, these issues that are in the ordinance,
Jason has a
With, yeah,
question.
I'm sorry, with the contractors and the individuals who have offered to help, do you think you can come up with a game plan between now and September 12th when you meet with staff to come up, to have a timeline available?
I believe that we could come up with this timeline. and
Perfect.
Talk about it, but I think what the foundation
Sure. Yeah,
contractor was saying that
Elizabeth,
the wintertime, the
make
start
it
of the
difficult, sure.
we need to be dried in before we.
If they come back with a timeline that, if December 15th doesn't work, but the timeline shows that the progress is happening, we'll discuss perfect, so, perfect. Well, I mean, I'd like to make a motion to
Right.
table till the next meeting
And let that
after-
meeting happen
yeah,
with the contractors
After
come
the
up with
meeting,
whatever the real timeline is.
Yeah.
Come on up. Sorry, did your.
So, my name is Jeff, I'm with Triton Foundation Repair. One of the questions that I have before we start looking at what the plan is for progression as far as moving forward, there's been conversation and comments we discussed. You're who I talked to on the phone, right? Okay. I'm terrible with names. Elizabeth. Very helpful, by the way. My concern is what we're talking about from a code standpoint on this particular property based on the age. So before we leave here, I would like for everybody to have an understanding of what code we're talking about, if any, versus getting down the pipe, trying to get this property back to what would be considered a livable position, even though obviously we have a difference in agreement, difference of opinion. But what kind of code are we talking about that while we're putting this plan together, that do we need to keep in mind to move forward with?
Well, I mean,
Where do those come
assuming
from?
that it's city code. There will be
It has to go to city
permits
code.
will need to be pulled. Just a second.
Yes, sir.
Permits will need to be pulled, just like any other construction project, and then inspectors will need to come out and inspect the work. It'll have to pass city code,
By current
standards.
Current
Yeah.
standards.
Like anybody else that's remodeling a house.
Is that
We're not actually remodeling, we're fixing.
Same thing.
same thing?
What was already established. And that's an issue right here. And bringing this up to city code,
Current code.
well, current code, that's going to be a whole lot more than what would be doing in making this place habitable by replacing and doing the maintenance that should have been done over a long period of time.
So what we typically do with people who are repairing items is we limit the code application to just what that repair is concerning. So just because they are repairing a floor joist or a sill plate or whatever it may be, doesn't mean that we're going to make them bring the entire property up to new mechanical codes.
Okay.
But if there is a requirement that, anchoring should be done every so many inches or feet, that code would apply.
So does that answer the gentleman in the middle? Did that answer your question?
I mean, I think
I
at this
don't,
point.
I don't think you can anchor. If we go into that subdivision and use the same criteria, I would say you need to file that same
Well,
file.
the subdivision is
on
not gonna get you
90% of
special
houses.
considerations. It's,
Yeah, so I think what we've decided is y'all get your team and your plan together and go out and look and figure out what all you're gonna need to do and then come back on September the 12th and sit down with the city staff and just let's come up with a timeline and see if y'all can make it happen. I know that I can only imagine there's other issues such as plumbing and electrical and roofing and all of that. So if you know people, or if there are people that are listening that feel led to help these people, that would be wonderful. We would, I know that they would greatly appreciate others stepping forward, like Triton.
Okay, but doing
Don.
the electrical and all of that is not making the place habitable. That's changing the whole building.
Okay, well, whatever y'all need to do. So I think we've got a plan of what we're asking y'all to do, and just get together with your plan and present it to the city.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to everybody who has stepped up to help.
Yes. And so we had a motion to table any action on this.
Yep, I'll second the motion to table.
Okay? We've had a motion and a second. Would you call the vote, please?
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Items tabled. Okay, that would, now we'll recess the city council meeting and convene the Moore Public Works Authority meeting. Item 12 is our consent docket. Receive and approve the minutes of the regular Moore Public Works Authority meeting held August 21st, 2023. Item B is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2022-23 and the amount of $1,427,902.73, and approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2023-24 in the amount of $1,076,914.59.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, would you call the vote, please?
Louis Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item carries. Item 13 is consider authorizing the budgeted purchase of a Hyundai Model 50L-9, 11,000-pound capacity LP pneumatic tire forklift for the Utilities Department from GW Van Keppel Company in the amount of $58,382.80 plus freight charges of $6,247.75 for a total of $64,247.75 using Sourcewell contract number 091520-HCE.
Vice Mayor and Council, the Utilities Department does not currently have a forklift. This will be used to lift heavy parts and equipment and for loading and unloading trucks.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we've had a motion and a second. You can call the vote.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes, item passes. We'll recess the Moore Public Works Authority meeting and convene the Moore Risk Management meeting. Item 14 is our consent docket. Accept the minutes of the regular Moore Risk Management meeting held August 21st, 2023. And item B is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2023-24 in the amount of $385,628.49.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, would you call the vote?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. We'll recess the Moore Risk Management meeting and reconvene the city council meeting, and all members that were present are still present. Item 15 is new business. Item A is citizens forum for items not on the agenda. We did have one person sign up. I took care of that. Oh, you took, okay. So item B is city council trustee. Any of y'all have anything? Hearing nothing. Mr. Mitchell?
On our big trash pickups, we're now back to scheduling for just 1 week out.
Great. Awesome.
All right. Thank you. Item 16 is executive session. Section 307, Title 25, Oklahoma State Statutes permits the public body to meet in executive session for certain specified reasons under certain specified conditions. It's the opinion of the city attorney that the city council may consider and adopt a motion to meet in executive session and discuss the following items. A, discuss, consider, and if deemed appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending court case number CJ 2022-749 filed in Cleveland County by Barrett and Timberlake on behalf of Wellington Service Fund Society against the City of Moore, and authorization for legal counsel and staff to take action as necessary and appropriate in the interest of the City of Moore as authorized by 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B4.
Make a motion, we convene to executive session.
Second?
Okay, call the vote?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt.
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be
Mark Ham.
go to yes. Go to executive session. Okay, we will convene from executive session. Just let the record show Councilman Blair had to leave prior to us going into executive session, but we still have a quorum, so we're good. Does we need a motion?
I make a motion to proceed as directed.
Second.
All right, would you call the vote, please?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item carries. The next item is adjournment.
So move.
Second?
Call the roll?
Melissa Hunt,
Yes.
Louis Williams.
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes. Item carries. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.